right. Archbishop, I want to be able to see my whole face. It's just a temple thing showing up.
Show your whole face. Go to the view option up at the top right-hand corner and then hit speaker.
Okay. All right, cool. All right. Greetings, 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 greetings. It is I, your king, King Clifford Jefferson. I send the Godfrey, the fifth caravan of Jews, son of folk, ruler of Jerusalem. I am the reincarnation or the personification or the what we call the representation of what they call Jesus Christ, which we know as King Edgar the Peaceful. I'm here alongside me is my Archbishop Belmont from the House of Belmont. He won't be on screen today, but he's here assisting me. There he is. All right. As well as we do this in honor of my queen, Sister Galveston, from the House of Galveston, as well as on behalf of all those who are members of the English Third Temple Church of England. All those who seek heaven, you know, in the concrete form, I suggest you watch this video. If you seek it in the abstract form, then continue on about your business. You know, I think without a shadow of doubt that all that been put forth from this platform has been without a doubt the most upfront, concrete, supportive, as well as foundational information that you ever heard before. I'm pretty sure my Archbishop would agree with me. But once again, nonetheless, it's been neglected and not referenced or not even looked at by other people who claim to be descendants of who we say Jesus Christ. You know, it's very important that you do that study of the metaphors that are used in reference to this being or entity called Jesus Christ, as well as what he came here to represent. Most people of faith, of religious faith, use the scriptures, which is okay, but scriptures are abstract. But Jesus said, I didn't come to change the law, to fulfill the law. And the law that Jesus represented is presently demonstrated through not just throughout the religious society, but as well as in the public society, i.e. our government, because every officer who takes a pledge, takes an oath, swears upon what we call the Christian Bible. That's irrelevant for what about to be spoken about in this day and time. But in regards to the metaphor in which they make reference to, we're going to show the concrete and why the reason why it was all done in the first place. All right. So I give Archbishop a couple of minutes to say a couple of words, and then we can get on with this marvelous lesson. I digress.
Greetings, everyone, brothers and sisters within the Kingdom of England, Empire of Albion. As I, Archbishop Belmont, from the illustrious noble house of Belmont. Today is September 9th, 2973 of the Berber calendar, which is equivalent to the 2023 Gregorian calendar. And like we say here always, that the Third Temple English Church of England, it's a beautiful time to be alive. Give honors to our King Clifford Jefferson from the Royal House of Plantagenet, as well as Queen Godwinson from the House of Godwins, as well as to the other brothers and sisters who's part of the society that we call the Third Temple English Church. You know, the King has done a marvelous job putting these lessons together for the people as a whole to be able to understand and to be able to put themselves back into the time frame and the mindset of our predecessors who have left an amazing and immaculate history, as well perfected law for us to be able to pick up and follow, especially during these dire times that we're living in right here on the planet Albion that you call planet Earth. But once again, like I said, it's very imperative for you to be able to understand, you know, this information and what's going on, for you to be able to put yourself back into the book of life. Like we said, we come to our own, and hopefully our own do start to listen and receive us. But like the prophecy have said, you know, many come or many are called, few are chosen. So with that being said, for those of you who can grasp onto this information, it is your due diligence do your due diligent duty regarding putting yourself back into what is your role and responsibility this lifetime, because once again, we all have come back to fulfill a duty, and these duties must be done without a shadow of a doubt. So with that being said, I digress and I leave the rest of the introduction to the king so that way we can get started on this lesson. Peace.
Thank you, Archbishop, for that beautiful introduction to the people. As you said, it's very important for those who are viewing this, as well as those who are not viewing it, that I suggest that you view this without any biases, because the law that our ancestors followed from their creator is not discriminatory to any inanimate or animate, whether it's not rational or irrational. It's just the law, you know, and a majority of us has been subject to the law, how it's been passed down, you know, and most of us have been perceived to be abstract. I'm gonna show you that abstract, you know, and they make movies about these things that constantly wake you up, but you take it for what it is. It's actually like a play or theater, a circus performance, you know, and if you just play the role as a spectator, which we are all spectators, when you're a spectator, you're supposed to make certain evaluations that what you have the ability to be a spectator of, because you didn't come from this creation. You know what I'm saying? You were put here to find your way out of it, and the intent of how you get, the purpose of how you get out of it is the intent of how you get out of it. And they show you through movies, books, documentaries, and every other way other than the right way. You know what I'm saying? Because it all boils down to it being abstract, meaning that it's nothing concrete to support that story based off the origin of where the story come from, which we call in our school of thought the common law. All right. The common law for everybody, according to creation, goes back to Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying? It goes back to Jesus Christ and his father, because that's what we call patriarchal line of descent. All right. But we have to trace it from the spook to what we call our physical reality, because it said he was supposed to ascend and return to look just like us, just like his people. All right. This has been told by so many avenues. You know what I'm saying? So the point is, what avenue are you going to take to come to the conclusion or the end result of what it is that you think you know about who you are and your quest for seeking heaven, what we call the kingdom of heaven, or in other words, the kingdom of Jerusalem, which we call the city of peace. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm gonna have Archbishop once again be the narrative, and I'll break it down as we go along. But what I'm going to do now is show you a clip. That's a couple-minute clip from the movie called Kingdom of Heaven. We know that we broke down the Kingdom of Heaven. The Kingdom of Heaven means Jerusalem, and everybody who claims to be of the descendant of the 12 tribes of Jerusalem should have some familiarity with Jerusalem, the origin of it, who was in that city, what the purpose of that city represented, and the stability of maintaining what the integrity of that city represented. All right, that's what we're doing right now, because New Jersey is called the Garden State. The Garden State is where I reside, which reside in what we call the city of peace, because the Plantagenet crown was ruled by kings that descended down from King Edward the Peaceful. As a result of them being all kindred folks, you know that the houses of the Plantagenets and their cadet branches are connected to the House of Wessex as a result of the marriage of Henry I and Matilda of Scotland. And Matilda of Scotland is the, if I'm not mistaken, she was related to Edward the Confessor. I don't want to get which part of the family she is, but she's related to Edward the Confessor. And Edward the Confessor is the son of, Edward the Confessor. And Edward the Confessor is the son of Ethelred the Unready. You know, the son of Ethelred the Unready is the son of King Edward the Peaceful, you know, is Jesus Christ. So there's a complete patrilineal, unbroken chain of line of hereditary descent. So I'm going to show you that from the abstract and the concrete, and I'm going to use the movie Kingdom of Heaven, which was actually released, if I'm not mistaken, 2009. So let's go to this clip right quick. If everybody who hasn't seen this movie, please go watch it. right?
Gotta turn the audio up.
Hold on, hold on. It was up. You can't hardly hear it? Can you hear it? It's not.
Yeah, we'll try playing it again.
Too low?
Yeah, it's still kind of low.
All right, hold on. Let me find another one. Bear with me, everybody.
Be without fear.
Still can't hear it?
Now I can hear it.
Safeguard the helpless, even if it leads to your death. That is your oath. Rise a knight. Rise a knight. It becomes less. The world will decide. The world always decides. New world. A better world than has ever been seen. You are not what you were born, but what you have in yourself to be. A kingdom of conscience, peace instead of war, love instead of hate. That is what lies at the end of a crusade. Every day will be a good man. What God desires is here and here. Give me all. That is what I do. That is your oath. The king has no need of nothing right. I will leave the world. You are a princess. And I am the Lord. You have my love and my answer. Fourth, for the strength to endure what is to come.
Okay. For all those who've seen that clip, I suggest you watch that movie. But a lot of us, when we watch movies, it's for entertainment. Of course, that's what we watch it for, entertainment, right, Archbishop? That's what we get out of it, entertainment. You know, we really look for nothing other than entertainment. Out of, oh, well, that was a good movie. But we have no affiliation to this movie because we don't think that we connected to this movie. So we think we have no connection to these movies. Like all the movies is just make believe, and 'cause, they're created by Hollywood, and we know Hollywood is like Hollywood, and we know Jesus hung it on a crosswood, and all these things have symbolic and metaphoric uh, meaning, to those who is given to for them to base their views off. But once again, that's abstract, and that's not what we seek for here in the English Church Temple Church. We claim to be the sons of God, and we seek in heaven, i.e., called the kingdom of heaven, where is that city of peace. We know most nations, the most fundamental thing about a nation is a city, i.e., its municipality, because that's where most of the citizens, i.e., subjects or slaves or whatever statute or status that you fit under, most of your local affiliations with your government, and your government can either be free or enslaved. And if it's a society where you're enslaved, then it's not a city of peace, and it cannot be denoted metaphorically to the term we call kingdom of heaven. Okay. If you watch this movie, you're going to see the gentleman that you see most often. His name was Balian. Balian was the son of Godfrey of Evelyn, right? In the movie, all right? We think these names are made up. These names are not made up. Balian was a blacksmith, right? And he was the son of Godfrey of Evelyn. Godfrey of Evelyn was one of the Knights of the Crusaders who protected the Holy Sepulchre, which was created, as we know, by Godfrey of Bouillon. We know, as we showed you the family crest of the Bouillon family from France, it showed you a depiction of a person like a Jew, all right, or Judah, from the tribe of Judah. All right, these are metaphoric terms for people who actually lived in those particular times, but they were not called Jews, and they were not from the tribe of Judah. These are all abstract terms created from a story created to put in your head. All right, so I'm trying to get you away from that and go back to the true understanding of that story. Like Balian in the movie, he was a blacksmith. In my profession, I was considered a blacksmith because I worked in the instrument room where we put things in what we call an autoclave, and these tools were sterilized at a certain amount of a high temperature. All right, so that's symbolic or metaphorically symbolic to the job that Balian had, till he was called to go about his father's business, and his father's business was not his immediate father, because his immediate father left him, which was Godfrey of Evelyn, i.e., he bears the same name as Godfrey, i.e., Jefferson. And he apologizes for abandoning Balian. So Balian goes back with his father to Jerusalem to defend Jerusalem. And when he gets there, he realizes that he has an estate. The estate is called Kerak Castle. Kerak Castle is one of the castles that were built by the Plantagenet predecessors called the Kings of Anjou under Fulk V. Fulk V, as well as Fulk IV, Fulk III, i.e. called Fulk the Narrow, i.e. Fulk the Black. They all were famous for building castles. All right. This is where our ancestors did, and this is not an abstract story that you've seen in the movie. This is something I'm going to prove to you right now. So without further ado, let's get started. Anything that you want to say, Archbishop?
No, well said, King.
Okay. Kerak Castle. All right, let me start, or you start?
I can start.
And I'm gonna get tired, let you go. Kerak Castle, Romanized, is a large medieval castle. Did you hear that? Medieval. It didn't say back in the time, going back to time out of mind, to the stories going back to the Bible. It said a medieval castle located in Al Karak, Jordan. And my wife's name is Jordan as well. All right. So that family name or that surname has some origin about what we're talking about. So it's not mighty strange, because Jordan represents where Jesus was baptized. All right. And baptismal is symbolic of the anointing of the ceremony in regards to succession of what we call Christ. So I thank my wife for that. All right. It is one of the largest castles in Levant. Construction began in 1140 under the pagan and folk king of Jerusalem. The Crusaders called it Crack de Moabites, or Karak in Moab, as it is referred to in the history of books. It was also colloquially referred to as Crack of the Desert. All right. So all those who claim to be descendants of the ancient Moabites from the land of Moab, this is your chance to be connected back to that family from the abstract story to the concrete story, because your story starts with the castle built by who? Folk V, King of Jerusalem. All right, let's go. We ain't gonna go into that. City of Jaffa. Remember, Article 6, treaties are supreme law of the land. Treaties are supreme law of the land. All those made after the Treaty of Alliance and all those made after the Treaty of Alliance. Before the Treaty of Alliance and all those that made after the Treaty of Alliance is somewhat suspect. Because you can't neglect or disqualify or nullify all the contracts that were made prior to the contracts made by unlawful authority. These are not unlawful contracts being here by way of what we call a treaty, because they go back to my forefathers' house, i.e., Folk V, the father of Godfrey, the fifth caravan Jew. All right. The Treaty of Jaffa, more suddenly referred to as the Treaty of Ramallah or the Treaty of 1192, was a truce agreed during the Crusades. It was signed on the 1st or the 2nd of September 1192 AD. The Treaty of Sabaha 588 AH. Between the Muslim ruler Saladin and Richard Lionheart, King of England, shortly after the July-August 1192 Battle of Jaffa. The treaty, negotiated with the help of Balian of Evelyn, guaranteed a 3-year truce between the two armies. That this treaty ended the Third Crusade. Okay? The one you just seen in that movie, his name was Balian. All right? Balian was defending the kingdom of Jerusalem. The Treaty of Jaffa was agreed upon Saladin and Richard of Lionheart. Richard of Lionheart is called Richard I, where we in the English Third Temple make reference to what we call time immemorial. Am I right, Archbishop?
Aye, King.
So I don't care if you don't think the movie false. I'm telling the movie, even though it was portrayed on the screen, they're telling you some real life stuff. All right? And we're connecting it to us. So we're taking the make-believe and making it a reality. That's power, right? That's a magic trick for your butt. All right? The Treaty of Jaffa, more something referred to as the Treaty of Ramallah. All those who know about that treaty, go check it out. So we know that at the time of the Treaty of Jaffa, it involves Balian, going back to Kirat Castle. And it said Kirat Castle was constructed by the assumed pagan folk king of Jerusalem. But what's wrong with worshiping yourself? Right? Are we wrong for that? We rather worship ourselves than some spook that somebody trying to get us to worship. We were created in the image of ourselves. Time never was when man was not. The life of time when man began, the time will come will be no more. If Jesus was talking about his father, he sure wasn't talking about no spook. All right? Folk, King of Jerusalem. Can you see that, Archbishop?
Yeah, I can see it.
Folk, also known as Folk the Younger, was the Count of Anjou from 1109 to 1129 and the King of Jerusalem, which is reigned from 1131 to his death. During the reign, the Kingdom of Jerusalem reached its largest territorial extent. Not under the rulers going back to the first ruler of Jerusalem, i.e. Godfrey or Bouillon. Not him. It wasn't at his height. It didn't get to the height till our ancestors jumped on the scene. Folk V, all right? We're telling you right here. We're showing you right here. And Folk V, on the Counts of Anjou, his successor was Godfrey, the fifth Count of Anjou, of the House of Plantagenet. The one with the 3 lines you see flying behind me, Archbishop. All right? So this is some real life, immortality stuff going on here. You know what I'm saying? we have resurrection from the dead, right? Well, that was the purpose of city of Jerusalem. For those who resurrected from the dead. This is the day of judgment. Everyone is going to be judged. All right, because like Sardine said, what is Jerusalem to you? It means everything to us. Everything. We're going to prove it. All right, let's go here. Kingdom of heaven. All right. So Balian was a son of Godfrey of Balian. All right. Watch the movie. It'll show you. Balian, he didn't know who was his father. He was an orphan until his father sought him out. And he told him who his father was. His name was Godfrey of Evelyn. Not his last name was Evelyn. He was known as Godfrey from the house of Evelyn. So you better be connected to the house of Jerusalem, because Evelyn's house is connected to the house of Jerusalem. Even though it was a de facto house, it was still connected to the house of Jerusalem. And we know that Jerusalem goes back to Jesus. Not the abstract Jesus, but some real Jesus. And that real Jesus is King Agnes Peaceful, because we proved it here. I think I erased it. Well, let's just keep going. All right. So the house of Evelyn, as we can see, this is the seal of the Crusades. The house of Evelyn was a noble family in the Crusaders kingdom of Jerusalem in the 12th century. They rose from a humble beginning, did y'all hear me? From the beginning to become one of the most important families in the kingdom, holding various high offices with extensive holdings in the Holy Land and Cyprus. The family disappeared after the fall of the kingdom of Cyprus in the 15th century. The family took their name from the castle of Evelyn, which was built in 1141 by Fulk I, ruler of Jerusalem, and entrusted to the barristers, the founder of the family Evelyn. Evelyn was the Crusader name for the Arab city of Yibna, where the castles were situated. The castle fell to the Saracens at the end of the 12th century, but by then the family had holdings at Beirut and Cyprus. Okay, so as we can see, the family took their name from the castle of Evelyn, which was built by who? Fulk V. Who is Fulk V? Fulk I. Fulk I, ruler of Jerusalem. So, and you see it, Fulk V, the king of Jerusalem. He was the father of Godfrey V, Calaban Jew, where the kings of Jerusalem were now the kings of England, which we're saying we're the descendants down from. We're descended down from. We're descended from the kings of England. How I know that? Because I am the king of England. Why? Because the ascension by way of Psalm 11:04, when it said, the Lord sat at the right hand of the Lord. All right. We know Lord is nothing but a particular office, a seat, representing what the authority of that seat was established for, and that was to establish the law, God's law. God's law is not no abstract law. God's law is a law that you've seen Jesus when he was tending to his father's business, and that was in a court, a temple's court, all right, where everything is taking place. Because we know that the temple church was a church created for the Knights of Temple, all right, and the Knights of Temple go back to the Crusades, and the Crusades go back to the Kingdom of Jerusalem, and the Kingdom of Jerusalem was founded by Godfrey, i.e. that name Godfrey, but that last name Bouillon. Even though they look like us, they ain't like us. Why? Let me show you. I love doing this work. I really do. Can you see that, Archbishop?
Yes, I can see it.
All right. Bouillon, Germany, because Belgium is actually what they call New Netherlands. Once again, Belgium or New Belgium is called New Netherlands. All right, we know when King James came to power on March 12, 1664, I mean, when he, under the restoration, when King Charles II came to power, he gave out charters to Duke of York, right? But those charters were under the authority of what we call the crown. But the crown under the British crown, which they were all kings of and queens of, were slave holders. All right. And they got their authority from the Dutch, because the Dutch surrendered to Charles II. But the Dutch were established to establish the colony what they call New Netherland. And New Netherland is called New Belgium. All right. New Belgium. Let's see that. Let's see this. Let's prove this. In the Middle Ages, Bouillon was a lordship with the Duchess of Loire-Lorraine, and the principal seat are Ardennais Bouillon dynasty in the 10th and 11th century. In the 11th century, they dominated the area and helped the ducal title along with many other titles in the region. Bouillon was the location of the ducal mint of the dominant urban concentration of the dukes in possession. All right, so we know that Godfrey Bouillon bear the name Bouillon, and we know that the surname Bouillon originated in Belgium. We know that when the King of Jerusalem was established under the authority of Godfrey of Bouillon, it was under the sovereign of what we call the Pope. The Pope was running that show. Let's revisit it one more time. The Order of the Holy Sepulchre. I'm gonna bring it home for y'all. Believe me, I'm gonna bring it home for you. I thought I pulled this up already. Order of the Holy Sepulchre. The Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre of Jerusalem, also called the Order of the Holy Sepulchre of the Knight of the Holy Sepulchre, is a Catholic order of knighthood under the protection of the Holy See. The Pope is the sovereign of that order. So when you look at the story of the Kingdom of Jerusalem, when it was established from the concrete perspective, it was established from the interpreter of the story. All right, and the interpreter of the story is not the true owners of where the story make reference to, because Godfrey of Bouillon was from the House of Flanders. He was from the House of Flanders, all right? And the House of Flanders were all of the Carolingian dynasty. I'm gonna prove it. I'm just creating a paper trail, all right? I'm creating the paper trail. All right, so we know Godfrey of Bouillon was the king of Jerusalem, and he was head of the Order of the Holy Sepulchre under the sovereign authority of what we call the Holy See, i.e. the Pope. Y'all follow me? Follow this rabbit hole. All right, Archbishop, help me out here.
Okay.
This is from Gary K. Woolenness. He's a judge in his present day in New Jersey. He's still a judge in New Jersey, a Superior Court judge. And he's telling you or explaining to you in this article from the New Jersey lawyers about when slavery was free, when it wasn't dirty to use the word slavery, when it was okay to use the word slavery. All right? Can you see that?
Yep. All right. Well, slavery wasn't a dirty word in New Jersey. Editor's note, this is Black History Month, and the piece that follows is a poignant reminder of a period too often forgotten. A period when the legal system in New Jersey, judges, attorneys, and lawyer politicians put the state stamp of approval on slavery.
Did y'all hear that? Put the state stamp on approval of slavery. New Jersey started this. It wasn't Virginia, it was New Jersey. because before the Charles II got restored, the Dutch was running the thing. And the Dutch is descendants of the Spanish and French, i.e. Frankish. All right, go ahead.
For most of us, slavery has no more connection to New Jersey than the cotton plantation. But despite our current reputation as a progressive state, the sad record reveals slavery existed in New Jersey from the 17th century until it was abolished in 1865 by the 13th Amendment, an amendment New Jersey initially rejected. In fact, New Jersey, which did not support Lincoln in either presidential election, was the last northern state to outlaw slavery. The legacy of slavery, which once brought this nation to a civil war, confronts us to this day. As we discuss race relations in our legal system, we should step back and examine the evidence of legislated racism in our own backyard in the past. The enforcement of the New Jersey slave codes, colonial laws. The Dutch likely introduced slavery in New Jersey in the early 17th century. After the colony came under British control, the Lords Proprietors enacted a series of laws governing slavery and encouraged their practice by granting immigrant landowners additional land for each slave they owned. In 1702, Queen Anne directed Lord Cornbury, our first governor, to take the necessary steps to ensure that the province has a constant and sufficient supply of merchantable Negroes.
Read that again, Archbishop.
As in 1702, Queen Anne directed Lord Cornbury, our first governor, to take the necessary steps to ensure that the province has a constant and sufficient supply of merchantable Negroes.
Stop. So that means that not only was the British Crown supporting slavery, it was the colonists, i.e. the 13 colonies, supporting it as well, because that's where they got their merchandise from, the Crown. It just said the Crown made sure that the provinces, now known as colonies, now known as state, had a constant, consistent, and sufficient supply of mercantilable Negroes. They still doing that today. Y'all ain't nothing but nickels to them. Y'all merchandise. And they got a constant supply of it. Now they're making other people Negroes because you do not fall under the classification of the Naturalization Act. So if you come over here from another nation and try to claim citizenship, then you're nothing but a Negro. Just a lot of, another skin complexion, but you still fall in the same status as a Negro. Keep going.
As a colony, New Jersey adopted a series of laws imposing harsh criminal penalties upon slaves and prohibiting freed slaves from owning property. For example, the 1704 law held that a slave convicted of stealing shall be whipped on a bare back with 40 stripes, and be likewise burnt with a hot iron on the most visible part of the left cheek near the nose, with the letter T by the constable. Any slave convicted of using force or persuasion to have sexual relations with a white woman was subject to castration and execution. Furthermore, children of free slaves were forever barred from purchasing or inheriting land in the colony.
Stop. Okay. So if this is done under the Crown, under the British Crown, in regards to not those classified as free white person under the Naturalization Act of 1790, and which was modeled after the Naturalization Act of 1740, with the Protestants who were subject to the rule of the Crown, which were the ones who were now breaking away from the Crown as a result of taxation. It just said right here that furthermore, the citizen slaves were forever barred from purchasing and inheriting land in their colony. Now, why would they say that? Because we know in Somerset versus Stuart, it just said that if a Negro set foot on English soil, he free.
Mm-hmm.
You see that, Archbishop?
Yes.
The King's Bench said, not just any judge, not just any individual or person. It said the King's Bench stated in 1772 related to the right of enslaved persons on English soil not to be forcibly removed from the country and sent to Jamaica for sale. If you're a slave, you can be sold from anywhere. You're a commodity. And we just read in the article what Queen Anne said in 1702, right? From 1702 to 1714, which was under the authority of the province of New Jersey, was under the authority of the crown. What crown is the question? Because she was not an English queen, she was a British queen. So don't throw us all in the, don't throw all the don't throw all the how do you say that?
Don't lump them all together, pretty much.
Don't put us all together in the same box or the same A box, whatever you want to say. You know how to say. Don't label us all together. All right. The King's bench clearly said in the Somerset case, so somebody saying contrary to that, we refer to this case, because this is in 1772. And Dred Scott was a slave under the House of Stuart, who was the British monarch, who were the ones who passed it to Queen Anne in 1702, who made sure that we as so-called niggas were the merchandise, that they made sure they kept a sufficient amount of supply. Y'all better listen. Okay, so we know that according to the lawyer's article, which we just read, y'all can get that up too. Y'all can look it up yourself. That's the evidence we're showing you here. This is the evidence, and it said the first one to introduce it to the British monarchs was who? The Dutch.
It's the Dutch.
All right. So if it was the Dutch, then you got to realize that the English and the Dutch relationship. That's what you got to realize, because we are here in what we call the Anglo-Sphere. Let's look up Anglo-Sphere, if I ain't got it here already. I didn't write this. We know sphere means circle, and we know circle means church. And we know Anglo is short for Anglo, and Anglo and angel is the same word, and they are metaphor for the word English. Anglo-Sphere. The Anglo-Sphere is the Anglo-American sphere of influence. You hear that? With a core group of nations that today maintain close political, diplomatic, and military cooperation. So if that's the case, then those who are citizens of the Naturalization Act are not a nation, so therefore you cannot be considered part of the Anglo-Sphere. You colonize here over to the Anglo-Sphere, but we're not a part of it. So you just caught you in a lie. You didn't migrate here from England. Or if that is, then you would be subject to the nation's law, i.e. the common law of England, which is used here in the Anglo-Sphere. That's in 1776 Constitution. So they're constantly lying to us. Well, not us, to y'all. We're aware. All right, as we can see here. Anglo-Sphere. We know Anglo-Sphere, you see the territory lit up. You see it lit up. All right. So we know that, as the article said, Dutch was the first to introduce slavery here in what we call New Jersey. Let's look at the history of slavery in North, what Wikipedia say about it before we draw conclusions. Because we just gave you evidence from a lawyer. And we know they liars. They always lie. All right. So let's see what Wikipedia say about it. Just to confirm what the lawyer said. Slavery in New Jersey began in the early 17th century when Dutch colonists trafficked African slaves for labor to develop the colony of New Netherland. You hear that? After England took control, no, stop lying. After the British took control of the colony in 1664, its colonists continued to importation of slaves from Africa. They also imported seasoned slaves from their colonies in West Indies and enslaved Native Americans from the Carolinas. And as we said, the North Carolina laws clearly said that the only slaves that were being enslaved were the Berbers. Watch the last video we just did. It said the Berbers. most Dutch and English, i.e. stop lying, most Dutch and British, i.e. Scottish and Irish immigrants entered the colony as indentured servitude. You were in service of the king. You were indebted to the king, not the English subjects. We were not. We were not. That's why you could not include us in your Naturalization Act of 1790, nor could you include us in the Naturalization Act of 1740, because we are not your property. As conditions in England improved and the numbers of the indentured laborers declined, New Jersey colonies trafficked more Africans for the needed labor, okay? To promote increasing numbers of laborers and settlers in order to develop the colony, the colonial government awarded settlers head rights of 60 acres of land for each person transported to the colony. In 1704, after East Jersey and West Jersey unified, the province of New Jersey passed a slave code prohibiting slaves and free blacks from owning property, further restricting African Americans in the state. So this is why you can't own property, y'all. During the American Revolutionary War, enslaved Africans fought on each side. The British crown, now they want to throw British in there. First you were talking English, now you're talking British. Just trying to confuse us. No, we're not confused. The English is not the British and the British is not the English. The British are trying to claim to be English, but the English law would not allow it. The British crown promised freedom to slaves who would leave their rebel masters and fight for the British. Why? Because the slaves that were originally slaves of the British went against their slave masters. So they're trying to do the same with their slaves to get them to go against their slave masters. So it's a perpetual and continuous a disease that's going on until the one who created the disease fixed it. And the one who created the disease was the Germans. All right. So in order for you to, what you need, a prescription. When you get sick, you need what? A prescription. Because people over here claiming to be sovereigns based off prescription, and they ain't the right doctors to get the prescription. If anything, the only prescription you're getting is continuing to make you sick. How we know that? Let's look at it. I constantly talk about this. I talk about it constantly, but y'all don't listen. Prescription. In international law is sovereignty transfer of a territory by the open encroachment by new sovereigns upon the territory for a prolonged period of time, acting as a sovereign without protest or other contest by the original sovereign. It is analogous to the common law doctrine of easement by prescription for private real estate. Going back to the movie Kingdom of Heaven, go watch the movie. This is what this was talking about. That's exactly what they were talking about. They show it to you in the movie, but they don't give it to them in the form where it needs to be talked about, which is a court of law. All this is over Jesus in the kingdom of England, which belongs to Jesus as his inheritable and private estate. Right? But nobody's bringing this man in court. They're just going to war, fighting over it. All right? They're just fighting over it. Let's go to it. So it says, back to history of New Jersey, slavery laws. You still there, right, Archbishop?
Yeah, I'm still here.
My screen, I can't see my face now. Oh, there we go. I don't know why. As we can see here, as I said, slavery in New Jersey began in the early 17th century when Dutch colonists trafficked African Americans. All right. So if that's the case, then we have to get a strong relation of the Anglo and Dutch, because the British are claiming to be the Anglo here in the Anglo sphere, but they're not, because they came over here by way of what we call conquest and right of discovery. Conquest and right of discovery. How we know that? Martin versus Wardell said that. Martin versus Wardell said that. We read that in the last lecture. I'm not going to go back over it. All right. So we know the Dutch were the colonists trafficking here in America African American slaves for labor to develop the colony of New Netherland. And we know that according to the family crest of Bouillon, which is the name originated in Bouillon, Belgium, then we know that that slave trade that started back then is still going on today, because we know that that kingdom of Jerusalem is an abstract story created by the list of Bouillons who carried that name Bouillon, which is not descendants of what we call the kingdom of England, because Godfrey Bouillon was married to Eustace II. Eustace II was from the House of Flanders. He married Ida of Lorraine, and Ida of Lorraine was from the Duchess of Lorraine. All right, we'll talk about that in a second. Very important, because Ida of Lorraine was not from a legitimate house of the kings of England, i.e. those kings that descended from God. How we know that? Because Eustace II married who? Golda of England, and Golda of England was the daughter of Eswart Unready, who was the son of King Edgar the People, our Jesus Christ. I'm not just talking, I'm going to prove it. All right, so New Netherland, which were the Dutch, who were the original slave traders here in New Jersey. We know every other colony, which we call a colony, all got their start from New Jersey. Every single one of them got their start from New Jersey. So let's deal with New Netherland. New Netherland, Dutch, Nieuwe Nederland, and Latin, Novum Belgium, or Nederlandia. So New Netherland is actually Novum Belgium. Once again, New Netherland is actually Nova Belgium. New Netherland is actually, origin goes back to Belgium, from what we call the Habsburg Dynasty. Anybody ever heard of that? The Habsburg Dynasty. And the Habsburg Dynasty is connected to what we call the Duchess of Lorraine. I'm about to prove it. New Netherland, i.e. New Belgium, was a 17th century colonial province of the Dutch Republic located on the east coast of what is now what we call the United States. They claimed territories extending from Delamara, Pennsylvania to the southwestern Cape Cod. While limited settlements were in part of the U.S. states of New York, New Jersey, Delaware, and Connecticut, with small outposts in Pennsylvania and Rhode Island. Did you hear that? New Netherland was called Nova Belgium, which is here on the east coast of the United States, encompassing the territories from Delamara, Pennsylvania, southwest of the Cape Cod, while limited settlements were in part of the U.S. states of New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Connecticut, with small outposts in Pennsylvania and Rhode Island. All right. So if that's the case, then we have to understand that there's a conflict not with the British, there's a conflict not with the French, a conflict not with the Spanish, but with the Dutch. Even though they had conflict with those I just mentioned latter, but we're talking about the conflict with the Dutch. So that means that we must understand the Anglo and Dutch relations in regards to the territory now known here in what we call New Jersey. And we know that, as the article stated, as well as the history on Wikipedia in regard to New Jersey, that the crown, i.e. the British crown, adopted slavery when it was already being practiced here by the Dutch. And the Dutch goes all the way back to Belgium, and Belgium goes all the way back to the Habsburg Dynasty, in which we're going to go now. Right?
Yep.
Anything you want to say, Archbishop?
For everyone, just follow along, because once again, the king is giving a chronological order for you, or chronological timeline for you to be able to follow.
All right.
Oh, shoot.
The Anglo-Dutch Wars. But we know we're in the Anglosphere, and the Anglosphere is a majority here in North America. Right? It's majority here in North America. Let's go back here. Excuse me. Y'all look at the territory. I don't care what you read, what you heard, what you thought. I'm showing you the territory as concrete proof of the aerial and territorial extent of our empire. The Anglo spear, which the Dutch stole from us. If the Dutch stole New Jersey, then just guess how much stuff they stole. All the rest of the stuff that's lit up in blue. All right, so let's go back once again. Anglo-Dutch War. The Anglo-Dutch War were a series of conflicts, and you say Anglo-Dutch, you're talking about Anglo and New Netherland. You say the Anglo-New Netherland, you're talking about the Anglo and the Habsburg Dynasty. All right, it all goes back there. The Anglo-Dutch War were a series of conflicts mainly fought between the Dutch Republic and England, later called Great Britain. Great Britain did become Great Britain to the United of Ireland and Scotland with the Kingdom of England. In the mid-17th and late 18th century, the first three wars occurred in the second half of the 17th century over trade, overseas colonies, while the fourth was fought a century later. Almost all battles were naval engagements. You hear that? All battles were naval engagements. It was fighting on the seas. Background. We're still talking about New Jersey, right? The Garden State, New Jerusalem, all right? New Jerusalem, all under the authority of what we call the Plantagenet Crown, because the Plantagenet Crown was under the authority of England and France by way of God the fifth kind of man, Jew, son of folk, ruler of Jerusalem, going back to the kingdom of heaven, which each and every one of us is seeking, not in the abstract and the concrete. And you can't get that in the old world, which we just saw in that video, as well as was told in the book that you're reading, as well as the stories by the narratives. But we're talking about the new world, New Jerusalem. The new world is here in North America. That's what the colonists called it, the new world. Let's just make sure. The New World is often used to describe the majority of Earth's Western Hemisphere, including the Americas. You hear that? The New World is often used to describe the majority of Earth's Western Hemisphere, including the Americas. This is called the Anglo-Sphere. Everybody? Before American Vespucci started discovery, as well as before the right of conquest, there was only the Anglo-Sphere. Y'all better understand what's being said to you. All right. So the English and Dutch were both participants in the 16th European religious conflict between the Catholic Habsburg Dynasty, i.e. the Dutch-Belgium Dynasty, i.e. Dutch New Netherland colonies that were here in North America, because the Anglo-Saxon Dutch War extended from the Anglo-Saxon territory over here, which included the New World. We just read it here. The New World included the Americas as well, as we've seen in the Anglo-Sphere. All right, so we already connected the Dutch to New Netherland. We already connected New Netherland to Belgium. We could connect Belgium to the Habsburg Dynasty. So let's go there. Habsburg Dynasty. Is we seen Archbishop?
Yep.
Okay, we go right here. The Habsburgs, also the House of Austria, is one of the most prominent important dynasties in history. The houses take its name from a Habsburg castle, a fortress built in 1020s AD in present-day Switzerland by Rabat of Klaskov, who named his fortress Habsburg. His grandson, Otto II, was the first to take the fortress name as his own, adding Count of Habsburg to his title. All right, so as we can see, House of Habsburg it's in present-day Switzerland, which was created by Rabat of Classical. So who is this Rabat of Classical? Let's check him out. All right, everyone, I hope you see this. Rabat Count of Classical. From 985 AD to 1045 AD was Graf Count of the county of Classical on the high Rhine of Swabia. Rabat was one of the progenitors of the Habsburg Dynasty, and he chose his name, his fortress, Habsburg. So as we know that Rabat Count Classical was of the Habsburg Dynasty, and the Habsburg Dynasty was affiliated what we call the Belgium House of New Netherland. All right, Belgium House of New Netherland, which is called the Dutch. All right, because the Dutch descended from the Habsburg Dynasty, which was ran by Rabat Count of Classical. All right, very important. Rabat was probably the second son of Lenzelin of Classical, son of Guthrum Count of Brisgau, and the younger brother of Bishop Werner the First of Strasbourg. In 1010, he married Ida before 973 in 10 Ida, who reigned from 975 to 1035, daughter of Duke of Frederick the First of Upper Lorraine and Beaches of France. Their son was named Werner I, Count of Habsburg. Once again, Rabat was probably the second son of Lenzelin of Classical, son of Guthrum, Count of Brisgau, and the younger brother of Bishop Werner the First of Strasbourg. In 1010, he married Ida, Duchess of Lorraine, daughter of Duke Frederick the First of Upper Lorraine. All right, that is very, very, very important to connecting the Dutch colony in North America to the origin where the Dutch originated, which is from the Habsburg. All right, and the Habsburg was started by Rabat, who married Ida of Lorraine from her father, the daughter of Frederick the First of Upper Lorraine. Okay, very, very, very important. Who else knows this? Who else is teaching this? No one. All right, let's look at Ida Lorraine. Not that Lorraine, but another Ida Lorraine, because all the Lorraines descended down from that family house, carrying that house Lorraine. All right, and we know the founder of it was Frederick the First. Let's just prove it. List of kings and dukes of Lorraine. All right. The kings and dukes of Lorraine have held different posts under the different governments of different regions since its creation as the Kingdom of Lotharingia by the Treaty of Rome in 855. The first ruler of the newly established region was King of the Franks, i.e. the Latin construction Lotharingia evolved over time into Lorraine, and French Lotharingian and Dutch is Lotharingen in German. After the Carolingian kingdom was absorbed into its neighboring rim in the late 9th century, dukes were appointed over the territory. In the mid-10th century, the duchy was divided into Lower Lorraine and Upper Lorraine. The first evolving into the historical Low Country, the second became known as the Duchy of Lorraine and existing well into the modern era. So we see the Duchy of Lorraine, the kings and the dukes of Lorraine are descended down from what we call the Carolingians, all right? And we know that Ida Lorraine was descended from the duchess and the kings of Lorraine, the dukes and the kings of Lorraine, and they are descended from the Carolingians, all right? We just said that, what's the guy name? Rabat married Ida of Lorraine. Not the Ida Lorraine I'm about to go to right now, but another person named Ida Lorraine, because the person I'm going to go to now called Ida Lorraine was the wife of Eustace II. Eustace II was the father of Godfrey of Bouillon, who was the kingdom of Jerusalem, all right? And he was from the house of Flanders, all right? He was from the house of Flanders, all illegitimate houses. They were not legitimate, they're illegitimate houses, all right? So now you should see the list of kings of the dukes of Lorraine. Let's just go through them right quick so you can all see them. Charles the Bald, Louis the Younger, Charles the Fat, Arnold for Carinthia, and all the other ones. Dukes of Lorraine, all right? Godfrey the First, very important. Carolingian dynasty, blah, blah, blah. Now, this is where the problem comes. But Godfrey the Fourth and Godfrey the Fifth are Bouillon. Godfrey the Fourth and Godfrey the Fifth are Bouillon. Because we know Godfrey the Fifth or Bouillon, let's go ahead, was the first leader of the First Crusade and the first ruler of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. All right? We know that. So he descended down from the Dukes of Lorraine. We just proved it. He descended down from the Dukes of Lorraine because Godfrey of Bouillon was the son of who? Isis II. Isis II married Ida Lorraine, as well as she married who? Gold of England. Gold of England was the daughter of Ethelred, the son of Jesus Christ, and Ida Lorraine was the son of Isis II. But yeah, Isis II. That was her mother. You don't believe me? Let's prove it. Godfrey Bouillon. I'm good, y'all. Godfrey Bouillon. Not to note that they wasn't of a darker skin color. Because you can see that the family crest had a person denoted to the characteristics of a darker skinned person with a bandana around their head. That's symbolic of what we call a circlet. A circlet, or what we call is an open crown. All right? It's an open crown. It's called a circlet. Everyone who's familiar with that term, look it up. A circlet, short for the word circle. Godfrey Bouillon. Who is his mother? Ruler of Jerusalem, successor of Baldwin. He was Duke of Lorraine. Predecessor was Conrad, which I just showed you as Duke of Lorraine, and successor was Henry I. All right, Henry I. Who was his mother? Ida Lorraine and Isis II of Bouillon. Once again, Godfrey of Bouillon, the king of Jerusalem, and protector of the order of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, under the sovereign power of the Roman Catholic Church under the popes of Rome, who descended from the house of Flanders. He father was Isis II of Bouillon, and his mother was Ida of Lorraine. You see it right here. Isis II of Bouillon and Ida of Lorraine. Okay, why is this important, everyone? Why is it important? Because Isis II as you can see. You can see the Archbishop? Isis II, also known as Isis of Greenlands. This was a long Isis with long mustaches. Mustaches, that's what it's called. Was the Count of Bouillon from 1049 to 1087. He fought on the Norman side at the Battle of Hastings and after received large grants of land, forming the honor of England. He is one of the few proven companions of William the Conqueror, and has been suggested that Isis was the patron of the Beatrix tapestry. Okay, as you can see, Isis II's father was Isis I. Isis II's spouse was Ida Lorraine from the Duchess of Lorraine. from the Duchess of Lorraine, because the Duchess is either a Duchess or a Duke. And we know the Duke of Lorraine and the Kings of Lorraine are descended down from, what's his name? Frederick I. I think it was Frederick I. Okay, so we see issue. Isis' spouse of Isis II was Gold of England and Ida Lorraine. Ida Lorraine was the illegitimate family line. Illegitimate. The legitimate line was Gold of England. Golda, God Giftful, daughter of Ethelred Unready. Golda of England, the Old English God Giftful, or Golda means God, gift of God, or Godiva was a Latinized version, was the daughter of Ethelred the Unready and his second wife, Emma of Normandy, and sister of King Edward the Confessor. She married first Drogos of Mantes, Count of Vexin, probably on 7th of April, 1024, and his son and had sons by them. Ethelred the Unready was from the House of Wessex, as well as Golda of England was from the House of Wessex. These are legitimate houses, legitimate line of succession. All right, everyone needs to understand that. Let's go here. This is bullion, because we know bullion comes from Belgium. Lordships of bullion was in the 10th, 11th century, one of the core holdings of the Ardennes bullion dynasty. It appears to have been their original patrimonial possessions. You hear that? Patrimonial, forgive me, I'll read fast. Patrimonial possessions. The bullion state was collected of fiefs, allodial lands, and other rights. The collection includes the lord villages of Bellavox, Mongemont, Censurix, and Assisnuus, the advocacy of the monastery of St. Hubert in Ardennes, and the lands to the south of Bouillon, formerly the land of the Abbey of Mouzon, now held and feed by Archbishop of Reims. So as we can see, the Bouillon dynasty is this house dynasty. Which was started by Godfrey I. The House Ardennes Verdun was a branch of the House Ardennes, one of the first documented medieval European noble families, centered on Verdun. The family dominated the Duchy of Lotharingia, i.e. Lorraine, in the 10th and 11th century. All members descended from Cununguina of France, a granddaughter of the West Frankish king Louis the Stamina. She married twice, but all or most of her children were children of her first husband, Count Apolitine Rigorette of Lotharingia. The other main branches of the House of Ardennes was the House of Ardennes of Luxembourg and the House of Ardennes-Bar. Okay, so as you can see, a direct line either from the de facto houses from the House of Flanders or the Jura House, which is direct from what we call the House of Kings of Wessex, because we know that Isle of Lorraine, which I'll go back to a second, right here. Isle of Lorraine was the daughter. Isle of Lorraine was the daughter of was the mother of Eustace II. All right, Isle of Lorraine was the mother of Eustace II. All right, partly so. I'm talking crazy. All right. It says in 1024, Isle of Lorraine married Eustace II. Yes, Eustace II had two. So if the legitimate marriage between Ethelred the Unready, the legitimate marriage between Eustace II and God Giftful, Ethelred the Unready's daughter, was directly to King Edgar the Peaceful, because if Eustace II's son, if Eustace II's son Godwin of Bouillon became king of England, then he was an illegitimate king, right? Because the whole purpose of the kingdom of Jerusalem was the preservation for Jesus Christ. And we're saying that Jesus Christ is King Edgar the Peaceful. We're saying that Jesus Christ is King Edgar the Peaceful. And King Edgar the Peaceful's son was Ethelred the Unready. And Ethelred the Unready's daughter was God Giftful, i.e. Golda of England. And Golda of England married Eustace II. And Eustace II's son was Godfrey of Bouillon. And Godfrey of Bouillon went on to become the king of Jerusalem. But he was a de facto king because, as he stated, He didn't want to wear a crown of gold. He wanted to wear, he said he was not worthy of that position. It was left for Jesus Christ, i.e. Melchizedek. And we know Melchizedek is the king of Salem, and we know the king of Salem is the king of peace, and the only one referenced in lieu of that title to mostly fit that description at the image of Christo or the image of Christ is King Edgar the Peaceful. So let's go here in closing. Back to the case law and Ray Ahmad Hassan. We must definitely approach this problem in regards to who we claim to be subjects or citizens or aliens. This situation is going to come to everybody's front door. All right, it's going to come to your front door sooner or later. So everyone should be asking this question that Ahmad Hassan had to ask himself in regard to assuming that you have any birthright here in what they call now North America, pursuant to the laws not backed by any ethnicity or genealogical test, but only by way of the color of your skin. All right. You must ask yourself. You must summarize the approach which must be followed in deciding whether a particular person, i.e., yourself, plan for citizenship falls under classification as the white person within the meaning of the statute, i.e., the Nationalist Act of 1790, as well as the Nationalist Act of 1740. And that resulted from the Treaty of Union in 1707.
Everyone follow along.
The Act of Union were two acts with the Union of Scotland Act of 1706 passed by Parliament of England and the Union with England Act of 1707 passed by the Parliament of Scotland. They put into effect the terms of the Treaty of Union that had been agreed on the 22nd of July, 1706. Following negotiations between commissioners representing the Parliament of the two countries by the two acts, the Kingdom of England and Kingdom of Scotland, which at the time were separate states, and the personal union were, in words of the treaty, united into one kingdom by the name of Great Britain. So as you can see in this article, that the kings of Great Britain, i.e. the British kings, under the British monarch, i.e. under the British crown, enslaved all the English people. Why? Because they were not English. And they enslaved us as a result of continuing the practice that was done by what we call the Dutch. And the Dutch are descendants of those who descended from the Habsburg Dynasty. And the Habsburg Dynasty were a result of what we call the marriage of, what's this guy name again? Redbot and Ida of Lorraine. And Ida of Lorraine descended down from what we call the Dukes and the Kings of Lorraine, with all descended from the Carolingian Empire. And we know the Carolingian Empire, where the house Dukes of Lorraine or the Kings of Lorraine descended down from, was a de facto house because Ida of Lorraine married Eustace II. And Eustace II's son, Godfrey of Bouillon, was the king of Jerusalem, but he was a de facto king because the only person that can be a true king of Jerusalem had to descend down from Godard of England, who also married Eustace II of the House of Flanders. And Godard of England was the son of Ethelred the Unready. That meant that he was unready to fulfill the office of his father. All right, and the office is representation of that seat in which King Edgar fulfilled as the image of Christ, i.e. the King of Peace. So with that, we'll close out, me and Archbishop, and I'll leave Archbishop with the last word. I digress.
Once again, brothers and sisters, it's a marvelous job that the King has done, putting the pieces together of our illustrious history that has been shrouded in mystery and secrecy, for us to be able to continue to not longer live in that state of peace, but in the state of hell. And the only way for us to go back to living in the state of peace is we have to track not only our origins back to the time when our ancestors were living in the peace, but we must lift the customs and the culture that they lived during that time. So therefore, we can be part of that trust that the kings of England, i.e., even the kings of Great Britain themselves, are trusted to maintain and keep in order for us to be able to inherit when that day came, which was the King of Peace came back and reincarnated, i.e., reincorporated through the corporation soul for our society. So therefore, that we can be able to once again have heaven on earth.
Well said, Archbishop. And just to qualify, and what we're saying at the English Typical Church of England, we know that Jesus was found in the temple dealing with his father's business, i.e., his father's house. And his father's house was the temple, all right? And his father's house and the temple, according to the concrete story, all goes back to the time of the Crusades. The time of Crusades was the protection of the order of the Holy Sepulchre in regards to the representation of the Holy Land. The Holy Land deals with the land that was preserved for God's people. And God's people is what Jesus came back to redeem. And redeem means to resurrect. You know what I'm saying? To bring back the consciousness in the temple, not outside the temple, but in the temple. Because we know the temple is the same as, or the church is the same thing as circle. And same in the word circle means ring. You know what I'm saying? And a ring has a beginning, a starting point. So you want to be in what they call ambient isotopy within that circle without it being broken. And this is what we provide. Why? Because in the concrete story, that the temple church is a royal peculiar, and the Church of England. Let's read what a royal peculiar is. A royal peculiar is a Church of England parish or church exempt from the jurisdiction of a diocese and the province in which it lies. It's subject to direct jurisdiction of the monarch. If the monarch is not there, then under those who the monarch put in position, such as the Duke of Cornwall, to whoever relative matter that we make a reference to here. But in regards to the temple church, which we are the English Typical Church, i.e. the concrete, contrast to the abstract, is royal peculiar in the Church of England, because we're called the English Typical Church of England, which is the church in city in London. We know that the church is an itinerant court, which means it's constantly moving. So it's not there anymore. It's right here. And the church is in the city of London, located between Fleet Street and the River Thames, built by the Knights Templars for their English headquarters and the temple precinct. That has changed now. It was consecrated on the 10th of February in 1185 by Patriarch Heraclius of Jerusalem, i.e. abstract, and during the reign of King John, which is concrete, because we know King John was the one who created the Magna Carta, and it served as the royal treasury supported by the royal of the Knights of Templar, or as proto-international bankers, all right? It said it's now jointly owned by the Inner Temple, Middle Temple, and the Inns of Court, based on the English legal profession, all right? So if you don't know law, you won't understand nothing that's going on today, which I'm telling you. And I'll close out with this. This is where I'm gonna go. No, that's it. All right, so I'll close out with that. You're now under the authority of the English Typical Church, i.e. in its prior term or prior name or its prior metaphor was called the Temple Church. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to find Jesus, you want to find God, you better come to the English Typical Church, because you were created in His image and His image He created here in thee. With that, let's say peace.
Peace.